I'm Shaggy, the opinionated hippie. This is part 21 of my ranking and reviewing Frank Zappa's guitar solos within the context of an album. We're now on to Apostrophe, 1974's Apostrophe. I just did Overnight Sensation, which was the album that preceded this. Those solos were fantastic. Slightly different band on here, slightly different recording situation, but still some pretty good solos. Four of them. Also, maybe two of the songs kind of have a middle solo and an ending sort of outro solo. I'm kind of just combining those into like the song guitar vibe because those are the I think the best two solos on here. I'm not going to do the Nanook rubs it sort of licks that he's licking just because it doesn't seem like that's a legit solo as much as it's just him, throwing in tasty little licks between the rants. So four solos. Yeah, that's it. I'm just going to talk about each one briefly. Then I'll put the list on the screen if you want to look at it. Then I'll show you where Apostrophe compares with the other 20 albums I've done so far. So number 4 on this album is Cosmic Debris. Short. It's one run through the cycle, live eventually, like when we get to the 80s. Frank or whoever was... Frank, when he soloed, would go through it twice. Have a longer time to solo. 74, things would loosen up and stretch out live. People would get more solos in the live situation in 73 and 74. But here, it's just one time through. Does its job as a solo. It's there. It's got a nice tone to it. I love the tone on all these. But again, nothing really special. It's a short little Cosmic Debris Frank solo. Number 3, and I've said this before in discussing this album and in discussing this song. I'm not a huge Apostrophe fan. I don't think the song, I don't think the jam is that interesting. There is a live version of it from an early summer 74 show. The one that's on the movie, Zappa, the movie soundtrack. I think it's on That's What It's From. It's pretty interesting and pretty good. But for the most part, the song kind of always disappointed me live. I think there was a Bongo Fury Apostrophe or two that were kind of good on that tour. But the song has never done it for me. This version on this album, I don't really care for the song. So the solo is probably the highlight of the song for me, other than the transition from Eccentrical Force into that, which I think is a great transition. But the solo, it's got a weird tone to it. I think... I read an interview with Frank, I think it was in Guitar Magazine. He was like plugged into something and then that feed went to like 2 different pedals, or there's a whole bunch to go on, but it's this weird, muted, kind of clean tone that nonetheless has this weird little lingering vibe at the end of it. It's a weird little energy. It contrasts very nicely against bass player. What the frick is his name? The guy from Cream. Jack Bruce's really heavily distorted, thick bass. It's a very nice contrast to that, and it works well in that context. But the solo, pretty interesting solo. Frank is just kind of going off. I don't think it's all that interesting. Fits the jam well, which again, I'm not the biggest fan of this jam. So it's interesting. I think Frank's solo is maybe the highlight of the jam, other than the transition. But yeah, number 3. Number 2, Stinkfoot. Both the actual solo in the song, and then there's like an outro kind of solo where Frank starts, tearing off licks as the song fades out. Kind of considering that one guitar solo experience. Another weird effect thing where he's playing an acoustic and he's got some weird pickup on the acoustic, and that's going through some other effects. And so the sound is pretty interesting. Again, you can tell it's either very clean or you can tell that it's an acoustic once just a very like processed acoustic guitar sound. Really neat little solo. There's this neat little melodic run in the middle of it that almost seems like pre-written, where it goes da-na, da-na. And it's like this weird little build up to like the next plateau of soloing, and then Frank continues soloing. A nice little progression in the middle of the solo. Just good energy, good playing. And then Frank returns to like the soloing at the end of the song, which is cool. But yeah, a good little solo. And then my favorite, probably the shortest, maybe as short as Cosmic Debris, pretty much nothing more than Frank like playing the melody of the song. But the tone of the guitar, the song melody itself, the way Frank just kind of leans into the melody of the song and then just kind of distorts it and plays around with it and kind of at the end returns to it. It's the Uncle Remus solo, which is just perfect, super duper duper short. Probably doesn't even count as a solo. It's probably just like, it is a solo because there's another release, the next video I'm going to do, which I think you get the full like version of the solo and not the edited version. But it's really short, but it just works so well in the song, and it's just so melodic, and it's so just perfect sounding, and it kind of like Stinkfoot, you get that middle pocket solo, and then you kind of get riffing at the end, but just absolutely, absolutely fantastic. Uncle Remus, great little guitar bit in that. But yeah, that's it. 4 solos on this. Really easy to do. There they are, right there. That's what it looks like in written form. And then where does this album fall? It falls, I would put it right there. Number 13. Yeah, like slightly above FC Oz, just because, the FC Oz is a couple kind of maybe boring duds on there, I guess. Where the Uncle Remus really is just super, super good and tasty. And the Stinkfoot's actually pretty good. So yeah. Number 13. I think I'm good with that. Feels kind of maybe high. Volume 6 is not very good. But yeah. Yeah, I think I'm going with that. I think I'm sticking with that. That's how much I really like this Uncle Remus solo. So yeah, I have the right to change it later if I decide to change it later. But anyways, that's it. Yeah, that's all I got. Those are my thoughts on the Apostrophe solos. All right. Let me know what your thoughts are on the Apostrophe solos. Subscribe, listen to music, share, whatever. You know how this stuff goes. All right. Peace. Talk to you later.